All right, welcome to zZounds Live. And we have Matt from iZotope here. What's going on, Matt?
Hey John, how you doing? Guess I should use this
Good.
hand. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks for coming by virtually.
thanks for having us in the streaming era we were just talking about before.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So today you have the Spire second generation with you. Awesome. So for anyone maybe that's not familiar with iZotope, kind of you want to kind of give us the rundown on iZotope and who you guys are and what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So if folks don't know who iZotope is, we're a software, hardware, and cloud audio technology company. We've been around almost 20 years at this point. This will, in fact, be our 20th or our 21st year. I've been with iZotope since 2011, and we used to build desktop software, audio plugins that you might use in Logic and Pro Tools, Ableton, and so on. And we still do that. We have a whole number of industry-leading software on that side of the business. A lot of it these days focuses on being not just great sounding, but educational and assistive too, whether that's the user experience or even the way we use things like AI and ML to help artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of help inform what it is that we do, whether it's generate a custom preset for you and your sound or kind of teach you about a specific idea like EQ or compression. So that's kind of who iZotope has always been. An audio and music technology company focused on education really as sort of a core value in everything that we make, all of the products that we do, the webinars that we put on or participate in. And then more recently, or I should say since 2017, we've also been focused on building up the Spire product offering. And that's sort of where I come in. Spire is more than just the hardware, although certainly we'll talk a lot about the hardware today. So if you think about iZotope as we've always been, that desktop audio technology sort of software company, a lot of our products were and still are used by engineers, by producers, people who are working in the studios or have those kinds of setups in their own homes. And we kind of noticed that as easy to use and as popular as those products often are, a lot of the times if we went out to a gig and kind of met the band or talked to the musicians performing, if your bands are anything like mine or the ones I've met, there's maybe one person or two people in that band that know how to run Pro Tools, and the rest simply don't, right? Especially in this day and age, sort of a whole generation of people who maybe they use voice memos or something that's just quick and easy to hand and good enough, even if it doesn't sound the way ideally it would in a studio with the more expensive setup. So having noticed, that there's a ton of people out there who fit exactly that description. They still want to sound great. They still want to record their songs in as high a quality as possible. We kind of thought, okay, well, we're iZotope. We want to help people out, and so we should kind of meet them where they're at, which is where Spire comes in. So there are a number of things that I'll demo. There's the app itself, which is available in different forms on both iOS and Android, and just helps you record, edit, and mix, and share or collaborate with other users in a very quick, simple, and easy fashion. There's also hardware, which you can think about as a front end to that experience if you want to use more than simply the microphone your phone has. And maybe towards the end of the demo, I'll talk a little bit more about how we're building sort of a cloud aspect that ties it all together. Things like sync and backup and storage that we maybe take for granted if you use Google Docs or Dropbox or whatever it may be. So we'll get into all of that. But yeah, iZotope, audio tech company, been around 20 years. We've had the good fortune to do a bunch of awesome products, meet a bunch of awesome users, and win a bunch of awesome awards along the way too. Which has been nice. So that's a little bit about who we are.
Yeah, I love how you guys not only are you putting products out there for people to use and tools for people to use, but you're teaching people how to use them and kind of how to use them functionally, not just okay, you can do this and this that you can do on all kinds of other things. It's like, here's what we can do that's specific to what we want to do as far as our features go. And I think incorporating something like a cloud-based system, where people, like, for instance, I'll record a demo, then bounce it over to my desktop, then throw it into a Google Docs folder, and then send that over to a friend, and by that time it's just it's too much.
Well,
but
that's the old joke of, like, I have final dot wave, final dot
yeah,
wave, right? Final v3 for real this time dot wave. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah,
it's how people work, right? They just go back and forth, and that's part of the equation for sure. Which, not to knock the other tools, everything has its place. But
sure.
I know when I come from kind of that world, when I use things like the file transfer services that are separate from the digital audio workstations, that are separate from the audio interface, that's separate from the microphone, just the more things you have to contend with working together and playing nice together, the more possibilities at least you open up for things going wrong, things taking a bunch of time, or being confusing, learning curve and all the rest of it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. Let's check out the Spire.
Sure thing. So I guess the first thing I'll show the physical hardware device, and then maybe we could kind of hop into the demo. I'll play some audio, record with the device. You can kind of see how the workflow goes. But just to kind of orient, this is what we're looking at. So I'll do my best to position it in frame. There you go. So this is the Spire Studio 2nd generation, very recently launched, only a few weeks ago. So forget the app, forget the cloud for a second. Let's think about just this and exactly what this is. You can think about it as a portable recording device that actually works standalone. You don't need anything simply to record music with this device. So on the front right here, that's an omnidirectional condenser microphone. Omni because mic positioning is hard, and B, as iZotope with tech from software like Nectar and RX, it's a little easier for us to capture a more omnidirectional sound from sort of all directions and then do things with it after the fact to help you sound great than it is to say, hey, you, the person who wanted to record in the moment, now you have to worry about a specific polar pattern or microphone response type.
Yeah.
If you want to know, if you know what you're going for, and it just becomes a lot to contend with. So really easy, great sounding, simple omnidirectional condenser microphone on the front. And in fact, you can see as I talk,
oh yeah,
it's already responding to my voice, right? So these are sort of the level meter LEDs on the front. On the back, if I wanted to use maybe a guitar DI'd in or a line out from my amp, in this case I have a keyboard, so plug a keyboard directly in. I think I'll do that in a little bit. You can see we have some 1/4-inch XLR combo jacks on the back. They also have phantom power, so if you do have an external microphone of some sort that needs that phantom, can run both inputs. And there's also a headphone input on the front and on the back. Got both. So if it's just you plug right into the front. You've got the control surface here, or if you're working with a friend, you've each got outputs. So those are the ins and outs of the device. As you can see, it is wireless. It has a battery, an internal battery, with at least 4, more typically 5 or 6 hours of runtime. So that you don't have to be stuck to a wall wart if you don't want to be.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's wherever you find inspiration, you can take that with you. Whether it's outside or I don't even know. Wherever you can be creative, go somewhere.
The craziest things I've seen so far. There was one up a mountain, and the other, granted, this was someone who worked for iZotope, but was in a canoe in the middle of a pond. I personally, I would not recommend that. It's an electronic device.
It's not waterproof.
It is not waterproof. In fact, you can see it's got vents for air and cooling and all that kind of stuff. No fans in it, super quiet. But yeah, not waterproof. So yeah, that's the basic stuff. You've got a microphone on the front, and you've got 2 inputs, XLR or 1/4-inch on the back. Now, to talk about this screen, we've got a record and a play button, and then I'll move it in a little. You see my screen reflection there. But you've got 3 buttons on the front, the new song, sound check, and volume button. So just to talk through a really basic flow, in standalone mode, you can see I've already got input, but if I hit this sound check button, It's now listening to what I'm doing. In this case, it's just a voice. I'm speaking, singing, whatever it might be. And it's doing a lot of the setup for you. So we like to think about this hardware as the audio engineer in your pocket. It's designed to help you out. So as that sort of 10-second period elapsed, we did a number of things. We identified the instrument type, in this case a voice. We set up an input DSP chain, so the types of processing that iZotope's known for. There's some harmonic saturation for color on the voice. There's various types of EQ. We actually use a target-based EQ to try and make you sound more consistent and more like basically what a good sounding type of voice, your voice, would sound like, regardless of the room or the space that you're in. And some compression as well, just often gentle compression on the way in, I think is a good thing. And so now we're ready to record. I hit record, immediately turns red. I'm recording my track. As soon as I'm done, I've got now track 1 on this side, and you can see it's already created an armed track 2. So the idea here is that I can get an idea down and then very quickly layer over it, add more ideas. And if I want to go back and punch back over this, it is a touchscreen, so now I'm back on track 1. I can re-record it. But very, very simple operation. I've got inputs and outputs, a standalone battery and storage device, powered kind of all the way through by iZotope signal processing, which you'll see in the demo. So yeah, why don't we get into more of the demo? You can kind of see how the app connects and controls the experience.
Let's jam some tunes.
So if you didn't get it already, the fact that we have a sound check button that kind of does all those things to help get you started, I should clarify that it doesn't take you all the way to the end. It doesn't write your music for you, but it does help you get started. Is because, like I said, those musicians we're focused on helping out don't, when they have an idea, want to grapple with, okay, open Pro Tools, connect the audio interface. Are my drivers up to date? Typically no, so I have to install those. Then there's some other software issue, whatever it might be. It's just as simple as I turn it on, I press sound check, I wait 10 seconds. We've set the microphone volume so it's not too loud, it's not going to clip, it's not too quiet, with too much background noise. And we've set, like I said, all of that input DSP as well.
Yep.
So, let me maybe take you through a little demo, and feel free to interrupt if you have questions. So I'm actually gonna, we're high tech here. I'm gonna move my webcam down a little bit, just so you can see.
It's an automatic tilt.
I know, right? So I'm headless, but I'm here. So maybe if you want to bring up the app screen as well, and then people will be able to kind of see what's going on. So. I have the app open. It's in this context, it's a wireless controller for the hardware. And you'll see as I record, as I play, everything is synced immediately over to the app, which of course is important if I then want to go share it onto somebody else, sync it up to the cloud so that they can access and change it or whatever the case may be. So I'm here, I'm connected, I have a keyboard, it's plugged into one of those inputs that I showed you on the back. Right here. And this is the first thing you see. This is the list of projects that I've been working on. And just to take you through a typical recording flow, first thing I'd want to do is either create a new project or open an existing one. Real briefly, I'll start with a brand new one, but I am going to go back and punch in on an old one too. So when you create a new project, this is the first thing you see. There are 3 screens. There's the record screen, where I can run my sound check, choose some effects, change my monitoring, and also leave notes, chord structures, lyrics, whatever it might be. There's an edit screen where I can see the tracks. So it's reacting to my playing there. And there's a mix screen, which for right now is blank because I haven't done anything. So the first thing I would do is hit sound check. You'll see the screen actually explain what's going on. So I'm going to hit sound check and just play some keys as best I can. Okay, so it knows I'm playing keyboard. Other things that it knows, if I'm recording vocals, guitar, bass, drums, keyboard, or other. right? If it's not one of those things, we make a more generalized selection of input settings, much like a microphone has dip switches and gain settings just to avoid clipping. But if we do detect an instrument, sorry, I should do this, shouldn't I? If we do detect an instrument, then you get sort of a more customized signal flow. So yeah, let's record. I'm going to hit record now that I've set up. And you'll see that same thing I described before. As soon as I stop recording, I'm armed and ready to record the new track. So at no point have I had to worry about clipping, about setup, or any sort of those considerations I usually would in a typical home studio. I just kind of went. And it sounds great. It's good to go. And I can layer up as quickly as I want. Let's maybe add some sort of a thing over the top. Love it.
Awesome.
So that's the basic recording experience. Of course, if you're anything like me, it's never going to be perfect. So there's basic editing in there too for those times where, maybe I do just want to delete, I don't know what I was thinking at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say delete that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. As simple as that.
Wow.
And, if I'm having trouble finding a specific spot, maybe I wanted to punch in and retry a section, you just kind of move, and just find the right spot. It's really easy and intuitive. Now that I have some layers recorded, imagine this was a song, and I'll pull up a song in just a second. You can mix it too. We use what we call a visual mixer. So rather than replicating the idea of a console in software, we think about, okay, a touchscreen and the way you might want to interact and think about a mix. So unsurprisingly, if I move the volume up or down, it's louder and quieter. And if I move it left or right, that pans it. Hopefully, we'll see if the stereo audio is working. No worries if not. Streaming is always an interesting time. But that's the basic recording workflow. It's as simple as I hit sound check, identify the instrument, good to go, quick edits, quick mix, and then I can share it out.
Yeah, I love that interface with the mix as far as just like visualizing where the sound is coming from, whether it's the left or the right, or, if you want it up or down. It's really more of, less faders and more of like placement and, and visual of where the sound is.
It certainly makes sense to me. I tend to be a more visual person, and I know we're talking music here, and if it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah.
But seeing is believing, and it's easier for me to kind of think, oh yeah, my guitar's coming from over there, the more towards that right hand side or that left hand side, and then see that represented here instead of having to contend with a channel strip and identifying the pan knob and playing with that. Doesn't give me a picture of my mix. So I just opened, in fact, a mix that I think I'm going to punch some layers over on. So you can see, here's an idea of that already. We've got some guitars on the left, a couple different drums recorded. One's more of a kick and one's more of a snare. Overheads, pan slightly with the lead vocal. I should probably just play that real quick, actually.
Devil came round and he knocked on my door. He came in and put his things down on the floor. Said, how long you here for?
Cool.
Perfect. So you can just move the vocals, wherever you want them to, and it's in real time, like as you're listening to the song.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I mean, remember, I have the setup here. This is connected to this device via a Wi-Fi connection. So the hardware actually puts out its own Wi-Fi network. And then the app can just see it. As you saw, I have this connected thing up here. So everything it's doing is happening wirelessly, instantaneously, and there's just less wires to worry about, less technical stuff to contend with.
Yeah, totally.
And so
the less wires, the better.
That's almost always going to be true. I can think of a few instances maybe where wires are good. Acrobatics, perhaps.
Yeah.
But in any case.
Go.
Yeah. So there's a few other features, though, of the hardware I think it's worth talking through. I completely glossed over the fact it has effects, onboard effects as well. And so thinking about this mix, it's pretty bare, and I'm going to add some keyboard layers, and I think I'll use that as an excuse to show off some of the effects as well, so you can get a full sense of the hardware experience. Okay, let me do a little bit of Wurlitzer. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So, sounds a little dry. And of course, if there are any keyboard aficionados, you know that this keyboard has effects on board. I also play with a ton of outboard effects, and certainly when I'm recording, I like to commit as well. So let's explore a few of those. I hit that effects button down here in my record screen. Maybe I should run sound check. Although, if we look at the level meters here, still not clipping. So it's got my keyboard dialed in pretty well. You can see all the other tracks too. And a little bit of my streaming wires, talking about streaming. Okay, so let's explore some effects. There's a bunch of different categories, starting with sort of more obviously acoustic and reverberant spaces. So,
oh yeah.
Just take that all the way up. So you can kind of explore those and get kind of spacey, or even get kind of crazy. So on and so forth. I know what I want, though. I'm playing Wurlitzer, so I want to run that through an amp. We have a bunch of amp sims on board, as well as a bunch of pedal board ideas that we've kind of put together. So I am going to get some tremolo and reverb going. That generally sounds nice on a Wurlitzer. Let's turn the speed down a little bit. Cool. So if you like the effect, just accept it. And now we're doing two things. We're running through all of that input DSP we have set up, and we're running into the effects as well. So I'm just going to quickly record a layer, and then maybe we can talk about some of the mixing and some of the mix effects and a few other features of the hardware as well.
Devil came round and he knocked on my door. He came in and put his things down on the floor. Said, how long you here for? He replied, I'm not sure. So he sat down and put up his feet. The devil came singing.
Cool. I'll leave it there for the purpose of not boring everyone. But yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit of a keyboard layer in that first verse where it felt empty, and then the guitar was coming in, so I kind of set that back.
Yeah.
So now that I've done that, and let's go to the mix screen, and maybe I'll just get a mix that I feel good about. close enough.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. People can spend hours playing here.
Yep.
And there's a few other options on the right. Maybe I should talk through as well. So in addition to the signal processing iZotope's known for on the way in, things like Nectar and Ozone, the mixing and mastering software that we have, there's also some of that showing up here. So the first thing you probably noticed as I kind of went between different tracks, all of these, by the way, this is my band and we recorded a demo. So these are all things we've recorded into Spire and kind of layered up. This button here that says narrow, and sometimes it says wide. So if people are familiar with mastering software Ozone, there's a module in there called Imager. And this is basically toggling between Imager on and Imager off. So when it's narrow, that's off, but when it's on, we're applying a bunch of signal processing to kind of lift and widen the sound, which is just a really quick and easy way to get a good mix and kind of communicate to someone else, hey, here's what I'm going for. I want the vocals down the middle, I want the keyboard kind of spread out a little wide, and you can kind of build up a really simple mix visually and sonically just with those alone.
Yeah.
Let's say, and I'll come back to some of these effects in just a second. There's more, as you can see here. But let's say I wanted to share that now with you. Because I don't play guitar, but I want more guitars on it. And I'm looking at your wall and I'm thinking, all right, he knows what's going on.
Send it over to me.
Exactly. So
200 an hour.
Oh, okay. We'll talk after. No, pay musicians what they're worth. I believe that. So I hit the sharing icon up at the top. There's also that metronome icon. But let's hit the share icon. Couple things available to me. First of all, if I was maybe finishing this and wanted to post it to social media, you can see I have an option to do that. There's a quick and easy way to master it. That's exactly what this is. So I'll let it do its thing. But basically, much like our sound check understands several things about your audio and then recommends some settings, this is the exact same thing. So what it's done in that brief period of time, and this is a feature that's currently only available to hardware users, is it's run iZotope's Ozone Mastering Assistant. So it's listened to the audio, it's looking to achieve a good tonal balance, so it's made some EQ adjustments if something was maybe a little out of whack or a little too resonant. It also listened to the overall loudness, and it doesn't squish the life out of it, but what it does do, it gives it a little bit of a lift at least. So it sounds a little fuller as well as louder. And then I can kind of toggle this on and off. Maybe I'll just do that and see if we can tell the difference over streaming. Excuse me. Well, I don't know how it sounds on that end, but
yeah, no, you can tell the difference for sure.
Certainly, I hear the voice sounds a little more polished, and the drums sound a lot more full too, and that's really the point of the feature. So, I'm happy with it. I could post it directly to social media. I could download this, and that's just as simple as it renders a stereo bounce, and then I could text it to you or email it to somebody and just say, hey, look at this thing that I did.
Yeah, definitely.
But we also have this sharing option here, and if I hit that, it said creating a share link, and now if you look at the top of the screen, it's uploading, and if you look at the bottom of the screen, I can copy and text my family, my fantasy football league, the Spire designer, or the Spire marketing manager. So those are the people you're seeing.
You go.
And if I do send them that link, it basically, they'll receive a URL, and that URL takes them to the file stored in the cloud. So let's say I want to copy that link, and I'll come back to that in a little later in the demo. You can see what it looks like in the cloud.
Perfect.
But that's what's going on in the background. And when you get to the cloud, you can play the file back. You'll see a web app that looks very, very similar and is very similar to the mobile app. But more importantly, if you're a musician who used Spire to capture your ideas and now you sent this URL to the producer or the engineer you're working with, they can download the stems. They can download the mixed stems with the effects, the unmixed stems without the effects, in various different formats. So you don't have to think about delivery. We just kind of say, record the music, make sure it sounds great, send it to John. He's going to mix it or add more layers. And then it doesn't matter what system you have. You might have another Spire, you might have Pro Tools, whatever it might be. You can download the right stems in the right format for you, which is super helpful. So we'll get to that in a second. Before I move on to the last piece of the demo, just looking at the chat, I think there's a few questions I'll cover while I have this particular project up. The first was, does it have a looper feature? We'll take that to mean sort of a loop recording feature, the sort of typical sense of that term. And the answer is no, not yet. As the product owner, I can tell you that is something we plan to build. The only form of looping it has right now, if I hit this is a little bit of a hack, but if I hit the trim icon and I hit play, it's now going to loop that section. So currently I use this if I want to just loop a section and practice over it. Yeah. And then I hit record, but once I hit record, it's kind of like a one-time through. I can't yet layer up multiple takes in one go. So great question, and it's feedback we're well aware of and something we intend to build. So no looping in that sense. Another question was any chord recognition feature? No, not yet. The things we detect currently, the instrument type, the tonal balance, so that the frequency imbalances if a particular area of the spectrum is too loud or too quiet, the presence of certain issues like clipping, which we'll then adjust for. Those are the kinds of things we detect, but no, we don't detect chords yet. Although that would be kind of awesome if they appeared in the notes view. Right now I have to start typing, B minor or whatever Apple thinks I should type.
So if you're writing notes and you send something to a bandmate, do they see the notes too? Is that something you can send along with the audio, or is that just all internal?
No. So they'll get the whole project, and that includes the notes as well.
Nice. So you can tell them, like, lay down a, amazing solo from here to here or something like that, or kind of provide, feedback, back and forth and whatnot there.
Yeah. And in fact, I'll show this at the very end, but when you're in the web app, you can leave different mix notes for one another as well. Like, hey, I love this idea here, or I love this idea there. And so it helps for someone who's maybe looking.
Try again.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really quick kind of demo through Spire as it currently is, and more specifically Spire Studio 2nd generation, the hardware that you see here. So just to recap for folks who maybe missed the start, I don't know, there's an omnidirectional condenser on the front. It's great for vocals, guitars, that kind of thing. I often just put it in the middle of a room when my band is recording, although it's been a while since we did that with COVID. Inputs on the back, 1/4 inch or XLR, your choice, with phantom power on the side if you need to power the condenser microphones. And then basic controls on the front, sound check, headphone volume. I can start a new song if I want. Like, for instance, if I hit new song, now I'm in a brand new song. I can still go back to that project that I had and reopen it, and now it's loaded back on to the hardware. Maybe a couple other things to mention. I think we often get questions for, okay, how long does the battery last? At least 4, but more typically like 5 to 6 hours. What about the internal storage? How much of that is there? We record at 48K 24-bit quality, but for the techies among you, and iZotope tries to handle the tech so you don't have to worry, but we actually use FLAC internally, which means we can save storage space without losing any audio quality. And so we actually get about 8 hours of audio recording time on the device. And then, of course, when those projects sync through to your phone, it's limited only by the storage you have available on your phone. And if you sync through to the cloud, which is a feature we're actually about to roll out next week, then it's effectively unlimited.
Yeah. 8 hours is a long time. And that, when you're talking, songs that are maybe, a few minutes long.
Yeah, I wish that I had 8 hours worth of ideas.
Right?
I'm not that talented. Maybe every couple months I get up to 8. But yeah, so that's that. The other thing the hardware comes with, aside from just what it is and what it does and how great it sounds. So in September of last year, we launched Spire Pro, which is a subscription service. It's optional. You can still use the app or the hardware without it. But hardware users get access to the subscription for free. So if you buy the hardware, you get a 6-month demo of the Pro subscription without having to pay. And really what that does, it doesn't block features you would otherwise really need. But we try and take each bit of the experience and just say, hey, there are some more options here to play with. Kind of, there's more fun essentially to be had. So what I'm actually going to do now is hop away from the hardware for a second and just talk about the software subscription. So if you want to flip over to the app screen, you can see I actually disconnected from the hardware. I turned it off. We'll come back to that later. So let's open this project. The first thing that's different when I have an active subscription is soundcheck. So without it, when I run soundcheck, it does recommend some specific EQ settings for each instrument type, and those are some settings that we've predetermined. With the Soundcheck Pro, we do that target-based matching EQ. So you could think about that as when you're in the studio and you're line checking, the engineer themselves is tweaking a bunch of things in real time that are unique and custom to you. And that's exactly what this does, using one of the algorithms from Ozone. It also gives you access to a whole suite of audio repair technology. So if I hop into the settings page for a second, you'll notice I have automatic audio cleanup with Wi-Fi. So when I have a Wi-Fi connection, cloud sync is happening. And as I record, if there's background noise, very quickly thereafter, there isn't. So what it's doing is using iZotope RX, audio repair software, to identify and denoise anything that may be present. So that might be plosive, it might be a click, clipping if it crept in, all that sort of background noise, that background hiss that most of us have in our homes. So not only do you record with that better sort of target-based EQ, but the engineer in your pocket, if you will, is also actively repairing any audio problems that might show up, so you kind of never have to confront them. They just don't happen.
Yeah.
And similarly, in the mix screen, let's talk about the last two categories that I didn't show. So once you've recorded, you've gotten your ideas down, you're happy with them, you use the recording effects from the hardware, so you've committed some of those. In this case, I use that sort of tremolo reverb amp on my Wurlitzer. There's still more stuff you could do after the fact. So let's pick on the vocals. I'm actually going to mute everything else. And I'm going to bring up a vocal. And since somebody asked about looping, let me just do this. And when I hit play, it'll just keep looping it over and over. Oh, wait, sorry. I just remembered when we did our sound check, there's a button I have to press, and I had it muted. So I will do that now, and we'll just listen to the vocal. You guys hearing that?
Oh, I'm not getting sound.
What is going on? It was working, just a sec. Wow, you're doing so well.
We're live. We're streaming. We're streaming.
You know what? Let me, I'll just unshare the screen and then I'll reshare. Let's do that.
Awesome. Yeah, no worries.
Oh, I know what happened. My computer crashed. QuickTime crashed. This is a lovely real-time example of why computers fall short where hopefully Spire does not.
Exactly. So if you're using the Spire, you don't have to worry about computers crashing.
Hopefully ever again.
With that,
Do you hear that?
There we go.
Awesome. I will share the window, and we're back in business.
Awesome.
We're live. That's what happens. Okay, so here I am. I'm in my project. I've muted the other tracks. We're just going to play with the vocal for a sec. So this is what it sounds like. We had recorded it with some reverb. I showed you those effects earlier.
the devil came round and he knocked on my door. He came in.
It's just a little bit of room reverb, right?
Yeah.
So if I open up these effects, you'll see we have a few things here to play with as well. Some of the reverb effects, like acoustic shaper was an effect I demoed earlier when we were recording with the hardware, but also things like pitch correction, or the pitching up and down if I want to go the chipmunk route, if I'm maybe doing a hip-hop or sort of more of a pop track. Just for fun, I guess I'll play that.
And put his things down on the floor.
Oh, you know what? Let's do that. Have it on the vocal.
Oh, yeah, you got a lot of fun with that.
So he sat down and put up his.
Devil came singing a familiar old song.
So you can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or more traditional, sort of, like I said, reverb style effects. Or if you want that sort of Motown crunch, you've got a variety of things to play with here. Let's listen to that last crunchy one.
Your old song. He started insisting that I sing along.
And so these are effects you can go track by track, apply them. Once you do, and you share the project out, like I said, the producer or the engineer can choose to download the mixed tracks so they hear kind of the sounds that you were going for. Or they could download the unmixed tracks if they wanted to kind of do their own thing. And the last thing I'll show, which is included with Spire Pro again, which hardware users get for free, which is really fun, is the Inspire Me effect. So if all of the other effects I showed you are things that we sort of curated, we designed, we put together, they sound great, they're only as good as we're able to put things out. And what we can't do is listen to every single person 24 hours a day and give them exactly what they want. And that's where the idea of Inspire Me came in. So when I open this, you'll see it's a little simpler than some of our other effects. And I basically got this button, this icon on the left, and I can roll the die. Every time I do, it's not just the name of the effect that's changing. This effect under the hood has not every algorithm iZotope has ever made, but it has a lot of DSP, a lot of signal processing. It's got reverbs, phases, delays, flanges, distortions, EQs, compressors, all kinds of different DSP that iZotope is known for, effects processing. And basically, each time I roll the dice, it completely randomizes the choice of effects, the signal flow, and the parameters of the effects. And it kind of just says, what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
And you can kind of keep going until you get something that you like. It's super fun. I waste so much time in this feature.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a great feature. Just because with this product, it's for musicians that may not want to actually be engineers or producers, but they want to get their ideas down and go that route. So sometimes, and I know me personally, I'll hear an effect, but I won't quite know exactly what that effect is. Like the telephone vocal, for instance. Sometimes it's like, oh, how do you make that happen without, having a button that's like the telephone vocal? I know you can do it through, editing and things like that, and the mix process. But for someone who's just casual, going through different effects, they might discover something that they didn't, previously know.
I mean, that's the fun of it, I guess. Maybe I'll just demo a few, and we'll see what we come up with.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
Like I said, it's random every time, so it's whatever feels good is the one I'll save. But
The devil came round and he knocked on my door. He came in and put his things down on the floor. Said, how long you here for? He replied, I'm not sure. So he sat down and put up his feet. The devil came singing a familiar old song. He started insisting that I sing along. His logic was good and his argument strong. So I sang like a sailor at sea.
cool.
Awesome.
There are a few in there that I liked.
Yeah.
Some of those distortion effects, maybe not appropriate for this song, but maybe another song.
Yeah.
But I'll stick with that reverb, so I'll apply it. It's now on my vocal track, and I can go back and change it later if I want, so to go back and forth. So that is real quick, sort of the extra sauce that the Spire Pro subscription adds to the experience. You don't need it. Hardware users get it anyway because it's fun. So it's a lot more to play with. Now, the last thing I think I said I'd show, and then we can sort of hang around for questions and any sort of other interactions folks want to get into, but yeah, that's right. I said I'd talk about the cloud a little bit. So, all right, let's say we're good with this project. Let me sort of unmute the rest of the tracks. I applied the effect that I wanted. I've got a basic mix that I wanted. So I want to share it again. I'm sharing a new copy of this project because we've done a bunch of stuff to it. You can see it's uploading in the background. I could copy the link and I could text it to you or someone else just to make it easy for me to demo. What I'm going to do is airdrop it to myself. So just give myself the link and I'll pull it up in the web and you can see what the web app looks like. Thank you, Apple. I will turn that on. M. Hines MacBook Pro. That's me. Okay. So once it's finished uploading, I will switch my share to this view. Upload complete. All right. Let me stop screen sharing that one. And the last demo of the day is going to be this window. Cool. So you're seeing this in real time because I just shared it. So already it's created the stems and it's doing a master enhanced version of the mix, that master assistant I talked about. And so if I was the producer or the engineer and someone emailed me this link, you know, I can go here and I can download the full mix down as an MP3 or as a wave, or the individual stems within which I'd have the choice of them being mixed or not mixed.
Yeah.
And those download as full quality 48K 24-bit audio files. I can also continue to share that project with others. If you shared this link to someone else that had Spire, they would just click this on their phone. On the computer, it says, hey, scan this QR code with your phone, and it just pulls the project immediately into their Spire app so they can start adding layers to it.
Yeah.
What else we got?
But
we have...
And with this, it's all browser based, right? So if you're sending this to somebody, they don't have to have any Spire or iZotope software. They can open this up just in their browser and then download the files right from there.
Correct. Yeah. Of course, only with the link. It's not, not just any member of the public can access your audio. They don't have to have a Spire account. They don't have to have the Spire app, which is free, and they also don't have to have the hardware, which is paid, or the subscription, or any of that. They could just access the link. In fact, let me just refresh
So you don't have to tell your producer to like download stuff or do anything like that for it to work. You can just send them the link and
You just send them the
boom.
link, and then right away, this is what they'll see. They'll see the individual tracks, and they can download it. Like I said, they can
Yeah.
also leave comments.
Oh, yeah.
We
There you
haven't
go.
left one yet, but if I logged in, I could leave a comment as well. It's just time-stamped, mixed notes,
Yeah.
kind of all across the way. So that's Spire. That's what we're up to. I
Yeah.
mean,
This thing is sweet.
it's a lot of fun, I tell you. Like I have actually in front of me, I have a microphone and I have an interface and I have all the stuff I used to have and the stuff I use for streaming and things like this. But almost all the time when I go to record, even as someone who knows how to use all that other stuff, I
Yeah.
just use Spire. And the rest of my band who aren't necessarily those studio rats, they just use Spire because
Yeah.
it's easy.
It's easy. Yep.
It sounds great. You can get ideas down quickly, explore new ideas. It's really easy to share it out and kind of keep going. And maybe just to wrap it up, I'll also drop a few little nuggets about where we're going next, because that's always fun. So if today, like literally today, I threw my phone in the ocean, that's kind of the joke that we use. I would lose my projects because they're saved on my phone. Or, if I threw the hardware, I would lose them because they're saved locally. Within a couple of weeks, we're introducing, for all users, not just paying users, cloud storage for free. So as you're recording, if you want, the projects will sync to the cloud. And that way, if a lot of people maybe have an iPad and a phone, or like an Android and an iPad, or whatever combinations of devices you have, much like Google Docs or Dropbox or Netflix or Spotify or any other sort of service you would use, as long as you're logged in, all of your projects, all of your history will all be saved. So I can record on my iPad if that's what I had, and then later on open up my phone and everything will be there, all my changes will be there. And if I throw my phone in the ocean, all my projects will be backed up. And
There you
saved.
go. I mean, that's a super important feature, I feel like, because, I mean, you're a musician and you know plenty of musicians. It's like I know so many people that are like, I had these files and, I had this demo, or, I want to go back and find this thing, but I don't know where it is. And, it's like there's like the land of lost music files somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. It's happened to me. It's happened to the best of us, I feel like.
Yeah.
But that's one thing, and certainly we're always adding more features. If folks look at the sort of release notes in the App Store, there's always new effects coming. There's more effects coming soon. We'll add more algorithms to the Inspire Me selection.
Yeah.
Make more effects available in the recording experience as well. There's a lot of good updates coming. Folks who have had the product for a while already will have just received those updates continually, and will know that that's something that we do. And maybe just to touch on one other question, which we do get a lot, is iOS, Android, does it work on both? And the answer for the hardware is yes, it does. It's supported on both iOS and Android, so it doesn't really matter which device you have. The hardware will work. You'll get that experience that I talked you through.
Perfect.
The subscription isn't yet available on Android. That is iOS only, although we're looking to sort of expand everything over time, and so for sure you'll see improvements on the Android side as well. I think the only big difference, and this is really nothing to do with the hardware, is that the iOS app actually you can use in standalone mode, using the phone's microphone. The Android app is more of the controller for the hardware. So that experience I demoed at the beginning. So the Android app only works if you own hardware.
There you go.
That's sort of one of the key differences that we like to make sure folks know. But if you buy the hardware, it works on either of those platforms. You
Awesome.
get, I don't know. I mean, I could talk all day, but I don't think people care about me.
I think you covered. I think you covered quite a bit there, and I mean, there's so much you can do with that little box or cylinder. It's pretty remarkable. The technology that's out today, and just the machine learning, and the basically taking all of the tech work that a musician doesn't want to do with their music. You guys kind of took care of it, and musicians be musicians and, you know, worry about, you know, what's most important to them, which is the music, which I think is awesome. So I really appreciate you coming by, Matt, you know, virtually and
thanks
talking
for
about
having
the
us.
Spire and, you know, doing some demos and showing us your personal music. That's awesome. Sounds great. So I was going to ask, was that you singing there?
No. It would have been.
I was like, can we get a live demo?
No, that would have been a lot worse. No one wants to hear that.
But awesome, man. And thank you for everyone for stopping by. If you have any questions, you know, even once we, you know, hang up here, you know, feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll get to them. But yeah, everyone have a great day and thank you for coming by.
Thanks a lot.